ancient ice sheets grinding against black volcanic rock, a scatter of red and yellow houses planted where no houses should exist. This is Villa Las Estrellas, and it shouldn't be possible. But here's what will keep you watching for the next few minutes. Before anyone is allowed to move into this town, something is taken from their body. Not a possession, not a passport photo, something surgical, something permanent, done to children as readily as adults, and done before they've ever set foot on the ice. Stay with me, because by the time you understand why, you'll never look at the word town the same way again. Picture the only place on the entire continent of Antarctica that functions like an actual town, not a research camp, not a scientific outpost, but a place with a school, a bank, a church, families raising children under skies that turn violent in minutes. 14 homes sit clustered against a landscape built to kill anything unprepared for it. The wind doesn't visit here, it lives here, and yet people do too. Adults, teenagers, toddlers, going about ordinary mornings in the most extraordinary place on Earth. So what is it exactly that has to be removed before you're allowed to call this place home? It isn't metaphorical, it isn't a rite of passage or a local custom, it's medical, it's mandatory, and it exists because of a truth about this town that most people can't even imagine. Villa Las Estrellas sits on King George Island, part of the South Shetland chain, roughly 75 miles off the tip of the Antarctic Peninsula, closer to South America than to almost anywhere else on the continent, and still utterly cut off from it. In summer, around 150 people call this place home. By winter, that number can fall to as few as 50, as the sun retreats and the island becomes one of the most isolated inhabited places on the planet. The nearest real airport with scheduled flights is Punta Arenas, Chile, over 600 miles across open, storm-churned ocean. There is no ferry, there is no highway out, there is only weather, and weather here does not negotiate. Temperatures hover just above and below freezing even in the height of summer, mild by Antarctic standards. But the wind turns mildness into something else entirely, cutting through anything less than full protection within seconds. Winter brings weeks of near darkness, the sun barely clearing the horizon before vanishing again. And yet, isolation this extreme doesn't fracture the people who live here, it binds them. When a storm seals off the island for days, when the only doctor on site is one person for the entire community, neighbours stop being neighbours and start being the only thing standing between each other and disaster. Out here, distance from the rest of the world doesn't create loneliness, it creates dependence, trust, and a version of community most places will never understand, or need to. Inside the town, life looks almost normal. There are 14 small homes, painted in bright reds and yellows so they stand out against the white and grey of the ice. There is a little school with just 2 teachers, teaching the town's children how to read and write and do math, the same as any school back home. There is a bank, but only one person works there. There is a small church too, and people from other camps nearby come to visit it. There is even a gym, and it is the busiest place in town. People play basketball and ping pong there. They lift weights, they gather for meetings. Sometimes they even vote there. In 1984, a baby was born in this town. He was the first Chilean baby ever born in Antarctica. Think about that for a second. A baby born on a giant sheet of ice, thousands of miles from a big city, in a place where the wind can knock you off your feet. The town even has television and internet, though the internet is slow and mostly saved for the school computers. Kids here grow up watching cartoons and doing homework, just like kids anywhere else. But underneath all of this normal life, there is something strange going on, something almost every single person in this tiny town has in common, something done to their bodies before they were ever allowed to move here, and it is not something you would ever guess. Here it is. Since 2018, every single person who moves to Villa Las Estrellas, men, women, even children, must have their appendix removed before they are allowed to live there. Not if it's diseased, not if it's causing problems. It comes out, preemptively, on a body that has done nothing wrong yet, simply because it might someday, without warning. The reason is chillingly practical. There is no surgeon stationed in this town. There is no operating room equipped for emergency surgery. If an appendix were to rupture here, the nearest real hospital is hundreds of miles away, across an ocean that storms can seal shut for days at a time. A medical evacuation isn't a phone call and a helicopter ride. It's a gamble against wind speeds, visibility, and a runway that might be unusable for a week. An untreated ruptured appendix kills in a matter of hours. Out here, there simply isn't time to wait for the weather to clear. So the danger is removed before it can ever exist. Officials don't wait for a crisis. They eliminate the possibility of one, cutting it out of every resident in advance, as routine and mandatory as a vaccination record. Children arrive at this town having already given up a piece of themselves they'll never miss and never remember losing. An organ removed before they'd even seen the ice, the penguins, or the house they'd grow up in. It sounds almost unbelievable, but it's real, it's current, and it's the price of admission to the only town on Earth's most hostile continent. So why does this town exist at all, if the cost of living there is this steep? The answer has almost nothing to do with fishing, or science, or scenery. It has to do with a map, and who gets to draw it. Chile founded Villa Las Estrellas in 1984, not just to house workers, but to plant something permanent on ice that multiple countries claim as their own. Argentina and the United Kingdom both assert territorial rights over overlapping stretches of Antarctica, and a research camp can be packed up and abandoned. A town with homes and a school and children growing up inside it is much harder to argue with. Chile wasn't even the first to think this way. 6 years earlier, in 1978, Argentina flew a pregnant woman to its own base on the Antarctic Peninsula so that her child would be born on Antarctic soil, a living, breathing claim to the continent itself. It worked. That child became the first person ever born in Antarctica, and the strategy became a quiet blueprint other nations would follow. Every family who moves to Villa Las Estrellas today, whether they realize it or not, becomes part of that same argument. A decades-long standoff fought not with weapons, but with birth certificates, homes, and permanent addresses on a continent no one is supposed to be able to own. They know the physical cost. They accept it anyway, because in this argument, simply staying alive here is a form of victory. Remember what I promised you at the beginning, that you'd understand why a piece of someone's body is taken before they're ever allowed to call this place home. Now you do. It isn't cruelty. It isn't tradition. It's the truest, coldest proof of what this town actually demands from anyone who wants to belong to it. Before you get a house, before you get a school for your kids, before you get a view of glaciers from your kitchen window, this place asks for something of you first, literally, physically, permanently. So would you live here? Not if you need a hospital down the street or a doctor on call or the comfort of knowing help is minutes away. Not if the idea of surgery as a prerequisite for a mailing address sounds like something out of a nightmare. But if you understand that some things worth having were never going to be free, that belonging somewhere this extreme was always going to cost you something real, then maybe this impossible little town starts to make sense. Villa Las Estrellas isn't disturbing because of ice, or isolation, or wind that can knock you flat. It's disturbing because it tells the truth other places hide. Survival here was never guaranteed, and everyone who lives here paid for their spot in advance. One town, one rule, one continent that still doesn't fully belong to anyone. Would you pay that price? Tell me in the comments. And if this got under your skin, hit like. Next week we're going somewhere even the researchers are afraid to winter alone.